Greetings, everyone. All my followers of darkness, shadow scavengers, and villainy aficionados, welcome, bienvenue to one of my good old-fashioned review episodes. I'm your host, Lord of Shadows, as always, and boy, do I have a treat for you guys. A review about a certain miniseries that I've been waiting for ever since it was first announced and finally came out, and I got a chance to see it, and here I am, finally doing a review about it. It is time for me, or should I say, for us to travel into a very distant old land where they had a very old, ancient saying that goes like this: wherever a Gaul passes by, no Roman can grow. And of course, I'm talking about none other than one and only Asterix and Obelix. More precisely, Asterix and Obelix, The Big Fight. A miniseries that came out on the 30th of April on Netflix, created by Alain Chabat and his crew. By the way, if you don't know who he is, he was the brain behind the writing and the directing of for me personally, one of the greatest Asterix live-action movies ever made, Asterix and Obelix, Mission Cleopatra, and also as a bonus, he played Julius Caesar in that movie as well. And just right off the bat, what he did with the show, this guy is a genius. This guy and his crew, they are all a bunch of geniuses because I was blown away with this miniseries, okay? From the beginning to the very end. Oh my God, and I cannot wait to talk with you guys. By the way, to kind of give you like kind of small little details, basically it's a 5 episodes miniseries. Each and every episode is like between 25 to like half an hour long. So basically, like in a few hours, basically you can watch the whole thing. Now, to kind of also give you my own personal experience with the Asterix franchise, basically Asterix first started as a French comic book series that all the way in like I think like Asterix the Gaul. Excuse me. I think like Asterix the Gaul was first introduced. The first issue was released. I think it was like in the early '60s. Yeah, I remember now. 1961. That's actually was the year when the first issue was released. Asterix the Gaul. And basically from that moment on, this entire Asterix comic book franchise was created by 2 comic book legends. And I would even put them on the same rank as like other legends like, Alan Moore, Jack Kirby, Jeff Johns, Frank Miller, and so on and so forth. René Goscinny and Albert Uderzo. Those 2 legends are the brains behind the Asterix comic book franchise. And after the first issue, Asterix the Gaul, it became a massive hit. Not just simply in France, but all over the world as well. And not just simply that, but also how much of a massive hit the Asterix comic book series was. It also they also gave it a proper welcome into the world of movies as well. It first started like in anime movies, and then later on, and few decades later, basically, it also started as like a live action movie series as well. All the way from Asterix and Obelix versus Caesar, all the way to Asterix and Obelix and the Middle Kingdom. Live action wise. When it comes to animation wise, Asterix the Gaul, all the way to Asterix the Secret of the Magic Potion. And I will also add the upcoming Asterix. I think it was the movie's called The Kingdom of Nubia. I think that is supposedly is coming out in 2026. But anyway, and also to kind of give you, like I said, my own personal experience with the Asterix franchise. I was also introduced to this Asterix franchise like through the comic books and then the anime movies later on. And I think the very first issue I read, I think it was. I'm not sure if it was like Asterix the Gaul, like the actual first issue, or if it was. I think it was Asterix the Legionnaire. I think that was actually the first issue I read, and then later on I started to read the others. But anyway, it was basically one of those: Asterix the Gaul or Asterix the Legionnaire. But either way, when I first started reading this comic book series, I immediately fell in love with the characters, the overall world, the style, the humor, all like other characters besides the main ones. And of course, when I started watching the anime movies as well, it made me fall in love with this franchise way more. Not to mention also with the live action movies as well. And even still today, Asterix as a franchise, it's still today one of my top 5 of all time. Period. But with that being said, let's start with the Asterix and Obelix: The Big Fight miniseries, shall we? So basically, the plot is basically, you have Asterix and Obelix and their Gaulish village, kind of like, doing like a very traditional, every day, basically kicking the Romans' asses and everything, until one day a Menhir strike was came down upon Panoramix's head, the druid, and in which tragically he lost his memory. And then, of course, with that, the Gauls basically were in big trouble, because like without him, with him losing his memory and everything, they cannot have the magic potion anymore. And with that also, we have another addition when it comes to like, big trouble. You have basically the introduction of the big fight, where basically you have a Gallo-Roman chief coming basically to their village and challenge Vital Statistics, the Gaulish chief, where Asterix and Obelix are from, challenge him into the big fight. Now, basically, to kind of give you a little history, the big fight is basically a match where basically a Gaulish chief challenges the other one, and whoever of the Gaulish chiefs wins, they control not just simply their village, but also the other chiefs' village as well. So with all that mixed together, let's just simply say that Asterix, Obelix, and all the Gauls in that village, they started to think, oh yeah, we are in big trouble. Oh yeah. Oh my, so it's kind of like basically the overall summary of like, this miniseries and everything. But even still, one thing I do have to compliment them when it comes to like the plot of Asterix and Obelix, the big fight, because to kind of tell the truth, there was already another version of the big fight that was, I think, was released as an anime. It was released as an anime movie, I think, like in the early 80s, I think. But unlike this one, which followed like almost every single element of the original comic book, the one from the 80s, it was kind of like a mixture of like two comic books, which is kind of like another big deal, because like most of the like Asterix anime movies and live action movies, they always use kind of like a mixture of many different comic book issues to kind of like create this story for a movie. Like the 80s version, I know it was a mixture of like Asterix the Big Fight, and also Asterix the Soothsayer, basically. Even though personally, if I have to choose between those two, like the Big Fight, like this particular miniseries on Netflix, or like the original movie from the 80s, I would choose actually this one, because this one like follows the main comic book storyline, the Big Fight comic book storyline, way more than the previous one had. Because like, yeah, sure, the 80s one had like some certain elements from the Big Fight, like, which is basically Panoramix losing his memory and everything after being hit by a Menhir. But everything else was basically centered around the Soothsayer storyline. But this one, however, I have to congratulate them, for following almost every single element from the comic book Big Fight storyline. I really have to congratulate them on that. Like, from when it comes to like certain moments, certain like characters appearing, the overall main plot of the story, being not just simply Panoramix losing his memory, but also this big fight between like this Gallo-Roman chief Cassius Ceramics and the Vital Statistics, but also in the same time adding something new, and also some kind of like making it like modern a little bit and everything, like with like few touches and all, which again it's not like a big news when it comes to like Asterix anime movies, or like live action movies in general. But for this plot, I do have to congratulate them, the way how they stick to the main story from that comic book issue. I really have to congratulate them on that. Because like when I was watching this miniseries, there was a lot of different like moments. Without giving anything away, there was a lot of different moments in this, in this miniseries that immediately brought me back reading the Big Fight comic book. Like I said, from certain characters, from certain moments, from certain like revelations, or like certain actions. Like it just simply brought me back to when I was a kid, all that nostalgia while reading the Big Fight comic book. Like it was such a nice touch, but also at the same time pleasant surprise. Oh man. Now because again, I've said it before. Like usually the Asterix movies, they usually use a lot of different stories from like many different comic books, like especially the live action movies. I mean, to kind of give you an idea, like let's just say, for example, Asterix and Obelix God Save Britannia, like as a live action TV show, as a live action, sorry, movie. They used two storylines. One was Asterix in Britain. The other one was Asterix and the Normans. When it comes to Asterix and Obelix versus Caesar, they used actually quite a few actually. Like they used, I think it was like Asterix the Soothsayer, Asterix the Golden Sickle, the Asterix, I think the Legionnaire as well. Maybe even a little bit of Asterix the Gladiator. I'm not quite sure. You know, and also kind of like give you like another like a third example. There was like an anime movie of Asterix called Asterix versus Caesar, which basically, if I remember correctly, they used three plot points basically for this anime movie. Like one of them was like Asterix the Legionnaire, the other one was Asterix the Gladiator, and the third one I think was like a surprisingly like a surprise. I think it was called Surprising Gift for Caesar or something. You know, but like basically, you know, so to kind of give you an idea, basically, you know. But for this particular, you know, project, the big fight, they really stick to the main plot. You know, they really did. And again, I have to congratulate them so much. But not just even like the big fight and you know, Panoramix losing his memories, but like even like their Alan Shabat and his crew, they added so many different things as an addition to this miniseries. Like for example, the origin of the magic potion, or like even the origin of how Obelix fell into the magic potion. I mean, I will admit that when Obelix fell into the magic potion, it was shown twice. Like the first, one time it was like shown through like a graphic novel, but again, very quickly, not too much like details and everything. And then the second time was like in Asterix and Obelix live action movie, The Middle Kingdom. But again, even that was shown like, you know, very briefly, you know. But in this one, they explored those two elements way more, so much more, and way more in details, unlike, you know, the other previous versions, you know, did. And I love the way how they did it. Especially I like the origin of the magic potion, how basically Panoramix created the magic potion, like what kind of like, you know, drew him to create this potion, or to kind of give the final touches to it and everything. Like I really like those little elements they put you know, in this plot as well. You know, like I really like that. And also there's another thing. Now this is the only spoiler I will give you guys. There's one thing I was so satisfied they added into the big fight miniseries, and that is basically when Panoramix tasted the magic potion. Just like all the other Gauls, he got superhuman strength. Because like in every single other version, if it's like live action or animation, every time he put his finger in the magic potion, tried to taste it and say like, you know, something's missing, or like, it's perfect, nothing happens. Nothing happens. Like we never saw him like, you know, transform or like, you know, get strength, superhuman strength or anything. And I'm so thankful to Alain Chabat and the crew to finally adding that problem that I had with the druid in the previous projects. You know, they finally fixed that in this one. Like, I'm really glad they did that. You know, because it was bugging me, you know, the whole fucking time. You know, so when it comes to the overall plot, everything about it, I enjoyed. And oh my god, the finale. Ooh, I'm gonna talk about it a little bit later. But there's like, you know, the you know, but like plot wise. Oh man, it is like literally one of the best Asterix storytelling I've ever seen, like, you know, on the screen. You know, I mean, I have like there are only 3 projects where I was literally surprised when it comes to like, you know, Asterix and Obelix, you know, movies. There are 3 projects that really surprised me, like, you know, blew me away. The first one was Asterix Conquers America, or Asterix in America. The second one was Asterix The Secret of Magic Potion, and now this. Those 3 projects of Asterix are the ones that really surprised me when it comes to like, you know, how well made the story was and everything. It was just simply absolutely fantastic. Now, one of the other things I also have to mention is that like Alain Chabat and the crew, how they shown, but also at the same time developed Asterix and Obelix in this show. It is also like it was so well done, because you know, because like the way how they developed their relationship way more deeper, unlike, you know, other previous projects had, or even like the comic books did. Because one of the things I always had a problem with Asterix and Obelix, you know, is that, you know, when it comes to like their overall relationship, yeah, sure, like ever since they were born on the same day. They became best friends, and they were best friends ever since. And sure, like sometimes they argue with each other. With like Mr. Asterix, Mr. Obelix, and so on and so forth. But very early on, after they had an argument, like they always kind of like forgive each other. For like yelling at each other, insulting each other, and everything. I always wished kind of like for their relationship to kind of like being explored a little bit deeper. And the big fight finally answered my wish. They explored their relationship way more deeper, way more better than any other Asterix and Obelix project I've ever seen. Because that's exactly what I wanted. Because like even though they were best friends, ever since like they were born, I always wanted to see their relationship flawed. Kind of like basically having problems with each other. Like always kind of like I said, having these arguments. Not always agreeing with each other. And also kind of like like in this case, like there's a certain moment where Obelix had a problem with Asterix, always kind of like talking in his name and everything, which later on kind of was bugging him and everything. Like I love the way how they basically explore not simply them separately, but most of all their relationship. They're not just simply their relationship, but their overall friendship. Like I have to say, like this is one of the best character development between Asterix and Obelix that I've seen for quite a long while. Absolutely, quite a long while. Because like like I said, every other single like other character character development, relationship, friendship wise, like I said, they were always like very they were always like very quick about it. They never like I said, they never explore their relationship way too deeper like they did here. So I'm really glad they did that. And also one of the things I love is that in this one, again, as I mentioned before, we see the origin of Obelix following the magic potion. But also what I loved to see in this big fight series is that they also explored their relationship, not simply them as adults, but like even like as they were children. I love that moment, kind of like explaining how strong their friendship is and everything. How much they're connected with each other. But also at the same time, like I said, exploring them, with their flaws and everything. I just simply love the way how they did this. Not to mention exploring them separately and everything. Like it was absolutely amazing. Like one of my favorite moments when it comes to their character development was literally when when Asterix and Obelix went to visit a brand new character called Apotheca, who's kind of like this like Gaulish druid / like psychiatrist, basically. And the way how they basically were like having this like role game and everything, like basically kind of like controlling, basically talking about their issues and everything. It was absolutely fantastic. That's literally one of my favorite moments in the show. So yeah, that's also one of my positives when it comes to like the Asterix and Obelix, the big fight. Absolutely phenomenal the way how they explore their relationship. It was really great. Like I said, even though I'm a big fan of like the comic book franchise and the other movies, live action animation wise, but when it comes to the relationship, that's the one thing they never fully explored. I have to say it again. That's the one thing they never fully explored. So I'm really glad they did that in the big fight. I really am. Now, one of the things I also have to talk about is the animation and style. Oh my god, the animation, the animation is so beautiful, so clean, so well made. Like primarily is 3D, but also it also combined with the style of like 2D as well, with like in bits and pieces when it comes to like backgrounds or certain movements or certain like action sequences or something, or anything, to kind of also kind of give you an idea, not simply like the combination of these two types of animation, but at the same time that it was taken directly from the comic books. And I love that. I absolutely love that. Like, for example, when you see that picture of like Asterix punching a Roman, like that's like one example, basically. Like just the animation and the style they used is absolutely amazing. I mean, some people might think of it as this animation being cheap and everything, but for me personally, it was really well done. I wouldn't say the animation was way more better than, for example, Mansions of the Gods or The Secret of the Magic Potion had. Way better. Way better. Like I said, mainly 3D, but I like the combination between 2D and 3D, and also kind of makes you have this feeling that is taken directly from the comic books. I love that. I just have to mention that. When it comes to animation wise, like it's literally one of the most beautifully animated Asterix projects I have ever seen. And I cannot wait to see what other future projects hold when it comes to like the animation style. Oh my god, so well done, so absolutely well done. The other thing I have to talk about is the tone. Like usually now, when it comes to the Asterix franchise, like comic books and movies, the main ingredient of Asterix, series was always the comedy. It was always the humor. But and very rarely you will see like Asterix and Obelix having like serious moments, emotional moments. Like you will see that very rarely in other projects. But in this one, they made a perfect balance between humor, serious, and emotional. Perfect balance between this trifecta. Literally, because like this show has no, just like I said, the jokes, like when it comes to the humor, is spot on. Like like 95% of the time I was laughing hysterically. The other 5%, it still made me giggle. The way how they did the humor in this one was really well done. Nothing for me fell flat, but also at the same time there's quite a lot of like emotional and serious moments in this miniseries. Absolutely. Well, like especially towards the end, when it comes to like the big fight and also the grand finale. Like like especially in that part, yeah, there's a lot of like serious and emotional moments in there, and the way how they orchestrate all that, absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. Like the way how they balance the humor, the serious and emotional tone. It's a perfect balance of this trifecta. Absolutely perfect balance. Nothing for me felt flat or forced or like unused or anything. Like they balanced everything perfectly. Absolutely. Like I said, like I'm telling you, like this show for me, this miniseries for me was all like was so close to perfection, so close to perfection. Now, one of the other things I do also have to talk about, and that is the references. Oh my god! Now, to kind of give you a little brief history, okay? Asterix, throughout the entire franchise, comic books, series, animation, and movies, uh, Asterix was always well known to have references of the modern age, basically, of the present time, basically. If it's like about certain places, to like certain gadgets, to certain styles, to certain like name drops, to certain like characters being similar to like historical figures or celebrities and everything. Like they always had a really big tradition to use those elements in the Asterix franchise. Like I said, if it's like comic books or movies or animation, when it comes to like those kind of references, for Asterix it was always a very traditional thing to do, and this big fight TV show is filled with them. Oh my god, the references, they're all over the place, from like certain names to like like when it comes to like certain names to certain posters to certain moments to certain places. Like there are all sorts of like references in this one, and the way how they were used, it was amazing. Hilarious, bonkers, but it was amazing. I mean, without giving any spoilers, there is one particular like Star Wars reference in the big fight, and also quite a few Marvel references as well, especially towards the ending. I mean, if you if you have seen like if like seriously when you see which scene I'm talking about, trust me, you'll get it. You'll get what I'm talking about. But there's like but besides like Star Wars and Marvel, there was also like references to like certain like streaming services, to companies, to studios, like oh my god, or certain like movie franchises. Man, like I was laughing hysterically. I was literally laughing hysterically. Like without like there's a lot of like, especially when it comes to the names of the characters. Oh my god! Like for example, one of the main villains was a centurion. His name is Fast and Furious. Or like there was another character called Hanna Barbera. I mean, like It's crazy. It is so crazy. And again, that's not the first time Asterix and Obelix have done that. I mean, I remember like when I was reading the comic books, it was Asterix and Obelix, Asterix and the Black Gold, I think it was called the comic book issue. One character that was in there. It was like one of the main villains was based on Sean Connery. There was even another character that was based on Spartacus. There was even like a Lauren Hardy reference, or even like a Charlton Heston reference as well. Like I'm telling you, Asterix is notorious when it comes to references, and oh my god, I'm telling you, there's a lot of them here. A lot of them here. From, like I said, certain name drops, certain like pictures, or should I say mosaics, or certain like moments. Oh my god, they're all over the place. I think like to for anyone to catch all of them, I think you're gonna have to like watch this show at least twice to get all of them. Like because there are full of them, absolutely. And for me personally, it was just simply fantastic, bonkers, crazy, hysterical, but fantastic. Oh my god. Also the soundtrack. Oh my god. I mean, this movie, this miniseries had so many like well-known like music in this one, from the beginning all the way to the very end. Like it's, I mean, it's crazy because it makes me wonder how many fucking permissions did they have to do to get those songs. I mean, like, and some of them, like, when you think, like, when you see them on paper, you think like, wait, like, this makes no sense. Why the hell would they put this kind of song, in this miniseries? But when you see it actually happen, and the way how they used it, it actually makes perfect sense. Absolutely. From, like I said, from the moment when the Romans tried to attack the village of the Gauls, and the Gauls attacked them and everything, like the song in the background that was back then, all the way to, like, when Panorama was like, crazy and everything because he lost his memory. Like the way how they use those songs, and the timing of it all, it was so well done. So well done. But it makes me really curious how many fucking permissions they had to do to get him. But either way, the way how they used them, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. Now, one of the other things I do have to talk about is, of course, the new characters. Now, having new characters in Asterix and Obelix, like, projects, like it's like movies or animation, it was always a very traditional thing. It was always a very traditional thing. Like, some of the characters that appear in the comics will also appear in this project as well, but sometimes they will add new characters. Like, for example, one of the great additions for this movie, miniseries, which for me was bonkers, but she was actually really well used. She had like a lot of great, but like funny moments, especially with Julius Caesar. Was Julius Caesar's mother? I mean, like, first of all, was her design having the same face as Julius Caesar. Like, that was hilarious. But also, I really liked her style with, like, the white and gold makeup on and everything. Like, I really loved what they did with her, And again, she had very few little moments, but when she had those moments, she was hilarious. Also, they added another character in this one, which was called Metadata. I'm not kidding. That's her name. And I really like her character. I mean, maybe some people might find her annoying, but I really liked her. I really did. Also, I mentioned before the addition of another character, which you can see here in the picture, called Apotheca. I still cannot believe that she's called like that. Oh my god. But Apotheca, basically this druid goth psychiatrist, character. That basically the only role that she had in this miniseries was basically try to help Panorama get his memory back to and everything. But of course, if you watch this miniseries, you will see that everything got screwed up. But even though personally, I mean, in the actual Big Fight comic book, there was another druid who Asterix and Obelix asked for help to kind of like, cure Panoramix and everything for losing his memory. So I guess like, they replaced him with like this goth, like, female character. And I felt like she was also a great addition to it. I mean, she didn't have too much to do, honestly, but I liked her. Especially I liked her in that scene between her and Asterix and Obelix, like, having their session and everything. Like, I really liked her. Also, Cassius Ceramics, who's kind of like the third main villain, basically, of the Asterix and Obelix Big Fight storyline, just like in the comics. I really liked him in this one. I mean, one of the things that I always said about him, the guy is a jerk. Okay, the guy was always a jerk, and he was a jerk all the way when he was a kid, all the way when he was, and still a jerk when he was an adult. And the way how they used him and everything, it was almost like 100% just like he was in the comics. you know. And so overall, I really liked him. I really liked what they did with his character as well. And he had a lot of moments, not just taken directly from the comics, but also at the same time, a lot of funny moments as well. And I one of the things I always loved about him was like his obsession to kind of like have his village and his style, even though he is a Gaul and everything. I loved how much obsession he had, with Julius Caesar and the Roman Empire, and tried to make his village, as much more Roman as possible and everything. Like I really like that. I really like that, about his character and everything, But overall, when it comes to new characters, every single one of them for me were used fair and square. I think none of them were underused or not explored enough or pushed aside and everything. I felt like every single one of them had their role played the way how they should have been. So overall, when it comes to new characters, no complaints. Now, the villains. Okay, now when you see Julius Caesar, anyone who read Asterix and Obelix comic books, we all know that Julius Caesar is the overall overarching main villain of the Asterix franchise. This evil emperor / conqueror who tried to basically destroy this Gaulish village so he can finally rule the entire Gaul and everything, being part of the Roman Empire and everything. So he was always kind of like the main villain and everything. But to be fair, like in the comics, when it comes to actually being connected to the main story, he wasn't, he was usually kind of like this main villain in the background, because they never use him that much. Like he very rarely you will see Julius Caesar kind of like being part of the main story. Like ever since he was introduced to Asterix the Gaul, like he appeared like at the very beginning when the narrator was talking about how the Romans conquered Gaul, Vercingetorix surrendering and everything. Like he appeared at the beginning, and then at the very end of the of Asterix the Gaul, and then he appeared quite a few times, throughout the comic books and everything. But even in the anime movies and live action, he was all like, well, in live action they use them almost all the time as the main villain, but in the animation he was kind of like the overarching villain in general. So I was really happy they used him much more, in the big fight, because like in the actual big fight, Julius Caesar actually, if I remember correctly, he didn't actually appear, at all. I think, I'm not quite sure, but I really liked, the way how they used him as a villain in the big fight. And also, I have to mention, but of all the other versions I've seen, in this one, Julius Caesar was way more evil with all the actions that he had and everything, and I like that. But the one character that really impressed me in this one was this, like the other guy, the centurion called Fast and Furious. Like he was the one I really adored as a villain, because to kind of give you a little history of Asterix and Obelix villains, none of them, like throughout the comic books and animation and movies, none of them actually made a big impact on me. None of them, because every single one of them were like very stereotypical, very classical, very cartoonish. Like none of them actually was represented kind of like an actual threat to Asterix and the other Gauls and everything. Like I mean, there are a few of them had their moments and everything, but they were not that interesting to me. Basically, they were not that interesting. They were basically there to serve their purpose when it comes to story wise. However, there were a few exceptions. Like the first one that for me was a big exception was Demonix in Asterix: The Secret of the Magic Potion, which was actually an original story, not based on a comic book. I really liked Demonix. Like he was the first one who made an impression on me as a villain. And now this Centurion, Fast and Furious, like he really was great in the big fight series. Like he actually, just like Julius Caesar, even he really was shown in this miniseries to be like an actual threat, like an actual villain, an actual obstacle to Asterix and the Gauls. I really liked what they did with his character. Like ever since from the very first time he appeared all the way until the end, I really liked him as a villain. And that's actually what I'm asking for. Okay, for future Asterix projects, I'm really hoping that we were gonna get more villains like Demon X or Julius Caesar, like it was in here, or the Centurion of Fast and Furious. It kind of makes me wonder also, was the Fast and Furious actually based on the actual Centurion from the comics, or is he like an original character? That's the one thing I'm kind of curious, because like there's a big difference between the Centurion from the comic and this one, But like that's one thing I'm kind of made me curious. So with that being said, here I am, kind of like all my overall final thoughts about like Asterix: The Big Fight. Overall, I loved it. I love it from the very beginning to the very end. I love all the characters. I love all the entire humor, emotional, serious moments. The new characters were great. I love the dynamic between Asterix and Obelix. The overall relationship being explored way more deeper than anything else before. From the soundtrack, the animation, the style, everything about it was absolutely almost pure perfection. Everything about it, and which left me in the end completely satisfied. Absolutely, completely satisfied. Almost completely satisfied. Which kind of brings me to this, basically. Giving Asterix and Obelix: The Big Fight a 9.5 out of 10. Some people might be like, whoa, wait a minute, that's too much. Well, like for a miniseries like that, you're gonna give it 9.5 out of 10? Trust me. Even if you don't know Asterix Obelix lore, you trust me, you guys will still enjoy this show. Absolutely, from the beginning to the very end, because what Alain Chabat and his crew did with this show was absolutely amazing from the beginning to the very end. And it would literally break my heart if this miniseries will be gets put under the radar. It will really break my heart, because this miniseries deserves a lot of attention. Absolutely. So I'm gonna give 9.5 out of 10 to Asterix and Obelix: The Big Fight. I was completely satisfied with it. Absolutely. And with that being said, we have come to an end to this review, as always. Now, I'm really hoping that Asterix and Obelix: The Big Fight, I'm really hoping it's going to open the door for like other Asterix like miniseries. Because trust me, the comic book series of Asterix, there's a lot of great storylines they could explore as miniseries. From like for example, Asterix: The Great Divide, The Golden Sickle, Asterix and the Goths, Asterix and the Roman Agent, or the Gift for Caesar, or Asterix in Corsica, Asterix in Spain, Asterix, like as I mentioned before, Asterix and the Black Gold, Asterix, Asterix, and the Scots and everything. Like there's so many different storylines from the Asterix comic books, so many different storylines. Asterix in Switzerland as well. I mean, that's one of those stories I would love to see in a TV show or as a movie. I would love to see that, as well. Like there's so many comic book storylines that Alan Chabat and the crew could easily explore as a miniseries. So I'm really, really hoping that this will open the door to have more projects like that, being explored, as a miniseries or even as a movie, But for now we have to wait and see, because for now the only project left for Asterix is going to be Asterix and the Kingdom of Nubia, that's going to be released in 2026. But so the only thing for me left to say to you guys is basically go to Netflix, watch this show. You can watch it in French, you can watch it in English as well. Support the show, give the show a chance. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. Even if you don't know the lore, even if you never read an Asterix comic book, I'm telling you, or even watch an anime movie or a TV or a live action movie, I'm telling you, you're going to enjoy the hell out of this show. Absolutely. From the beginning to the very end. Oh my God. Everything about it was absolutely amazing. And I hope we get more of this. So with that being said, here we are done, guys. Rate the video, comment, subscribe, give me your personal thoughts and ideas. If you have seen Asterix and Obelix: The Big Fight already, what did you thought about it? What are your overall thoughts about the characters, the animation, the soundtrack, the action sequences, the humor, the serious tone, the emotional tones, Asterix and Obelix as characters, the villains, everything about Asterix and Obelix: The Big Fight in general, just put in the comment section down below. And as always, stay tuned for more, guys. See you guys next time. Laura Shells, as always, signing off. Or as I like to say, later, fuckers.